All right, did it send you that this meeting is being recorded thing?
Yeah.
I know,
Why does
that's
that
so
say
weird.
mute? Oh, okay.
All right, so hello and welcome to Just Animals podcast. Here with us today, we have a very special animal guest. We have Megan Hensley of
Wait, she's not an animal.
I said
Animal guest. You said.
okay. Sorry, animal expert guest. My apologies. Megan Hensley of Holistic Hooves, aka the Donkey Farrier. How are you today, Megan? And thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you.
All right, so Megan, let me ask you a
Okay,
question.
we're already
I'm the
starting.
man that asked the questions here.
Okay.
I know horse farrier, and I didn't know that donkeys wore shoes. So, like,
She's gonna educate us.
she's going to educate us about donkey shoes.
So yeah, so please, actually, you know what? Let's start that. Let's educate us on the difference between equine feet and donkey feet. Why don't we start there?
Okay. Well, first off, donkeys are equines. They're just a different species.
Okay.
The Equus asinus. I hope I said that right.
Asinus?
Asinus, yeah.
Yeah, my daughter must be from that species too.
Well,
Human
oh,
asinus.
takes one to know one. So, takes one to know one.
So they're in the equine species. They're just a different, they're a different
breed.
species of equine.
Yeah, they're in the family.
Yeah.
They are, yeah. But there is a pretty big difference between donkey feet and horse feet. All the structures inside are the same, but the ratio to bone and soft tissue is different. Donkeys have far more soft tissue than they have bone, or rather the bones are smaller and the soft tissue takes up more space in their hooves. The way the structures form and come together in the donkey hoof is a little different. The soft tissue, the frog, which is a big kind of cushion in the back of their foot, it sticks out farther, takes up almost half of their foot. With a horse, it's not like that. Their hooves are like little U-shaped instead of kind of big and round, and they're very sure-footed, very nimble. The hoof wall is really hard and dense because in the wild they dig holes for water and they traverse over some really hard, rugged desert terrain. Their genetics originate from the African Sudan desert. So that gives you kind of an idea of who they are.
So Megan, did you start with horses and morph to donkeys, or did you start with donkeys from the get-go?
Well, I was with both, but I did have the opportunity when I was an apprentice to start working on donkeys right at the beginning of my apprenticeship. So we were working on horses, but then we were also working on donkeys. And in my industry, it's common for farriers in the industry to not want to work on donkeys. So I was really fortunate to have a mentor who loved donkeys. It was very serendipitous, was meant to be, had to be. He told me early on, he was like, donkeys need you. He's like, they need farriers that are going to be willing to care for them. They're super misunderstood and they're underserved in our industry. And that was 16 years ago. And that still rings true today. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
So no, my turn.
Are there enough people that have donkeys to keep you gainfully employed?
Yes, there is. I trim a ton of donkeys in my area. I've traveled up and down the state of California. And most recently, just last year during COVID, I created the first online donkey hoof trimming course that, like, say you had a donkey, you could purchase my course and learn how to trim your own donkey's hooves.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are donkeys being used for? Are they put to work, or are they just being used to breed, or what are they used for?
Donkeys, in domesticated donkeys, in the US, Canada, Europe, places, developed countries, they are pets. They are workers maybe, but more like people might show them or they might pull carts. There's people that race with them, like run alongside them.
Excuse me for a second. I saw a video, Megan, that donkeys were used as like guard dogs. They're used to guard herds. Do you know about this?
I do, but I am not a huge advocate for that.
Why is that?
Well, because, okay, so first off, reason why people might be drawn to that is donkeys, unlike horses often go, oh God, get me out of here. You know,
Yeah.
whenever they see something that's scary, where donkeys are like, what's that? What do you need? What do you want? Like, come at me, bro. A little bit. That's in their genetics to be like that. So people want to use them as guardians because they will stomp on smaller animals, and even the little donkeys will put up a brave fight against something if they need to. But the reality is they're prey animals.
Right.
The other thing is they put them in for guardians in their herds, and these herds are sheep, goats, sometimes cattle, and donkeys' diets are far different than those animals, and these donkeys end up really obese. And the other thing is they tend to turn them out as guardians, and then they don't train them to be handled, so then their hooves do not get taken care of. And the third thing is that they often keep them alone as single donkeys. And that's very, yes, Elle, is very sad for a herd animal to be isolated from its own kind. Can they have friendships with other species? Sure, they can, but that does not take the place of the companionship that's needed from their own species. So those would be the top 3 reasons why I don't advocate for that.
I mean, that, and they have livestock guard dogs. I mean, if you're gonna just get a livestock guard dog.
No, yeah, but the donkeys were even better. They were, like Megan says, they were like, okay, because they're bigger, they can take on like a bigger prey.
Right, but a small donkey is the size of a Great Pyrenees. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. The smaller donkeys are, but standard donkeys and then the mammoth donkeys are much bigger. But even so, donkeys are pretty badass, and they have knocked out a few. You know, I know a miniature donkey that managed to fight off a bear that tried to attack him, but it was super traumatic for him. He did survive, but he lost part of his ear. He got scratched, but he got the bear out of his pen. You know, so I think they are very brave and courageous, and we got to be careful not to take advantage of that and put them into situations where they could get hurt. But they, you know, they're very brave.
So Megan, do you do mules too?
I do. I love mules, and mules are super special. Do you know what they are?
It's a donkey and a horse, right?
Yes, it's a hybrid.
And they're sterile, right?
So
yes,
is that the horse has to be the female? Is that correct? In order to, or
who has to be the oven?
Yeah, the horse is the oven when you're making a mule. But if you flip them, and the mother is a donkey and the horse is the father, it's called a henny. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a henny. But there's really no way of telling the difference genetically unless you actually were there and witnessed, and you know for a fact who the mother or the daddy is, because a henny and a mule's genetics are going to look exactly the same.
No kidding.
Isn't that fun? And they're both sterile. Every now and then a mule gives birth, but it's very, very rare.
Wow. You mean like 2 mules try to mate?
Yeah, or more like probably a mule is left out in a herd with some horses or a donkey, and everybody's like, well, she's sterile. So
doesn't matter.
And then she just happens to
get pregnant.
A little miracle child.
Wow. Is it so? It's not. It's possible to happen in essence.
It is. Yeah, I don't know what the percentage is, but there are cases of it happening. Yeah.
So, would you say I guess in like the equine world, would donkeys kind of have like a pit bull reputation where it's just like, oh, they're just bad, you know, like I don't want to deal with them, they've got a bad attitude, they're mean, they just want to rip your face, you know? Is it that kind of a stigma?
There's a stigma that donkeys are very stubborn, and that they can be aggressive. Like so in my industry, just the other day I was in a farrier group on Facebook, and somebody was going, I don't want to trim donkeys because they'll just kick you, they're hard to handle, they're dangerous.
So are horses.
Yeah, right. Okay. And you're totally right. Just standing next to a horse like ups your level of dying by a bunch. I don't know the statistics, but my job as a farrier,
it's already dangerous.
Oh, super dangerous. It's an incredibly dangerous job. And that doesn't matter if I'm working on a horse, a mini horse, or a donkey. That's
Right.
not what it's equines in general. And what I've found is donkeys are incredibly smart, and that's why they end up in a lot of trouble with people, I think, because people might just expect them to do whatever they want. And if you don't take the time to build a relationship and train them, then yes, they can be hard to handle. I'm not saying that I haven't worked with donkeys that could hurt me.
Right, or a pain in the ass. It's like, we got to do a little extra stuff here with you.
Yeah, exactly. But what they really need is a foundation of trust, and to build their confidence, and to show them what we're trying to do. And but a wild donkey, another thing is, people will adopt these wild donkeys, and yes, they are dangerous, not because they purposely want to hurt you.
Wait, why would you? That's a wild animal.
Wait,
Yeah.
okay, so is that is a donkey a burro all same as
thing.
yeah,
Yes.
because we have wild burros out here.
You do,
and,
Yeah, yeah, I've seen. I was looking for them on it. We just drove over out.
Yes.
Step over, please. Scoot over.
Did you
Step
see
down,
some?
please. No,
you see-
not this
My
time.
wife has
but
seen
I've
them
seen them a couple
hiking
times.
in,
I'm gonna see
Red Rock. I'm sorry.
So you're a father and daughter team here.
Yes.
Yes.
The only resemblance is the Junos, but anyways. So I've seen them a couple times. If I can find my dash cam footage, and if it's still on there. Oh fuck, it's on the one that got stolen by a crackhead. But anyways, I did have dash cam footage of them, because I was like, holy shit, it's donkeys. And I like turned it, and they were just, traversing these rocks. And I was just like,
Yeah.
where the fuck, like, how are you getting any sustenance out here? Like, but as you're saying, I mean, they come from the Sudanese desert. That's no walk in the park either. So
Oh no, it's not. Yeah. So you saw healthy donkeys. Now you turn around and you'll see some in people's backyards. And anybody listening, don't get mad at me if you have a fat donkey, okay? Because just don't take it personal, but you will see that domesticated donkeys end up being obese. And it's because you said, like, what the hell are they eating out here? Hey, not much, okay? And they got to walk to get it. They got to run, they got a lot of work to do to get the calories. And so we have to really think about that when we domesticate them.
right, you got to work them.
Yeah. And we also got to feed them in a way that mimics more of their natural forage. So
what is that? Like, just, you've talked enough. So is that just like scrubs
get
and
the next
stuff,
question.
or like shrubbery, or just like roots?
Yes.
Like,
they are more browsers than they are grazers, but they are grazers. Where on the other hand, horses are more grazers, less browsers. So yes, in the desert, they'd be eating shrubs, really tough, like desert grasses that are generally higher in fiber, lower in protein, and low in calories.
okay.
So they have to eat a lot of it to get to where they need to go. So, or, to get what they need.
Okay.
So Megan, question here: did you have to go to like a community college to like the Farrier's associate's degree?
Farriers. She's not a furry.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I didn't, which is really weird. Honestly, Guy, I could just, mail you a rasp, and you could grab it, and you could be like, I'm a farrier, and just start advertising and go start trimming people's animals if you wanted. Thankfully,
Really?
not too many people do that. There are farrier schools, so I began out with an apprenticeship. So I was mentored for about a year by a farrier, and he had been a farrier he had been a farrier probably for like almost 16 years. And then I did choose to go to horseshoeing school. I went to Pacific Coast Horseshoeing School outside of Sacramento. Yeah, and then it's funny that you say
so
that.
did you have a degree in horse?
Well, I don't really have a degree because
it's a trade.
It's a trade school.
Yeah, but there's nothing that monitors us or. Oh yeah, like I'm probably going to start a donkey farrier school.
You should.
But I want to, but what I'm saying is, like, I can just do that and nobody can stop me. And
so there's no like joint apprenticeship committee. There's no Jack or anything. Oh, okay.
Now, over in the UK,
Yeah,
there is.
Oh, okay.
They regulate that like crazy, but this is America, baby. You can just like do whatever you want.
hang out your shingle.
Yeah.
So when did you feel you got the calling? I mean, did you get some sacred message from God and said, I want you to go take care of animals' feet?
Right? No,
Like
it didn't happen like that. I did get a sacred message though when I was a child. I would probably say I don't really remember getting the message, but it's just been in me to love and care for animals. They are something that I'm deeply passionate about. But so I was on a trail crew in 2004. I lived in the Stanislaus National Forest. You know where that's
Yeah,
at?
that's
Yeah.
way out there.
Oh yeah, I was out in the middle
Ooh,
of
you're in the boonies out there.
Yeah, I was in the middle of nowhere. Okay, and
Stanislaus. Ooh.
hiked. Our whole crew hikes out there, and we're building trail, dry stone masonry, trail maintenance, and we're 10 miles out in a camp. And so, who brings us our supplies? But the mule pack train, right? They
Yeah.
whole string of mules would bring us in all our food and mail and candy and everything that you could want when you're in the backcountry.
Dark
And
chocolate.
yes, if someone was good enough to mail us a package, then the mules would bring it in. And I decided that I wanted to work for the Forest Service and then I was going to be a packer when I got out. And so then I applied for the job and they were like, great, you got all this experience, but we need you to know how to take care of hooves. And so then I was like, okay, I'll go find an apprenticeship then. And that's what spurred me to go for the apprenticeship. Then, as the story went on, I worked for him for about a year and really enjoyed it and was going to reapply to the Forest Service. But he ended up saying that he's going to move away, and I had the opportunity to take his business.
Great.
So I took the business, and that's how that happened.
Okay,
Sometime
so
My
when
turn.
you have a trailer that you go out and see people's, right? You visit their stable or
I
farm or
drive to
whatever.
you, yeah.
And how do you heat up your shoes?
Oh, well, I'm a traditionally trained guy. I'm traditionally trained.
Ooh.
So I used to I used to hammer the steel. I used to fit shoes on the horses, and about so 2006 was the apprenticeship. 2007 was school. 8, 9, 10. So around 2010. 11, I sold my anvil and all of my blacksmithing tools, and I took a completely different direction into the world of natural hoof care,
Oh.
where we do not put steel on. We use alternatives to steel like composites and rubber and hoof boots. Hoof boots can be taken on and off, and the composites and the rubber types of shoes are glued on instead of nailed.
Oh, but you were like
Oh,
old school, what the anvil, hammering it, shaping
I
it,
used to
and
have it, yeah.
nailing it in.
Yeah, I used to do all of that, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, but I kind of got turned on to another paradigm within the horse in the hoof care world, and started to make a lot more sense to me to use something that isn't as rigid and
Sure.
doesn't have as much concussion. But that's really still kind of controversial in the farrier world.
Okay.
So taking care of donkeys and championing them isn't my first time that I've bucked the system. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
I'm a
so
bit of a rebel.
so
Good
do
for
you
you.
have to bring different shoe sizes? I mean, if you're putting a boot on the animal,
Yes.
okay, and then you use some kind of epoxy or something to glue it to their feet?
Yes, that's what you would do. I don't do a lot of gluing. Those are more for like rehab type situations. I
Yeah.
have done it, but yeah, you use epoxies, acrylics.
But it's still shaped like a horseshoe type of a
Yes,
shape.
Donkey foot.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
okay.
Well, and most of them, even the composites, we can get them in certain sizes, but we can squish them down, shave them with a rasp. You can still modify them. With the rubber boots, we heat them.
Mhm.
Not unlike heating a steel shoe in the forge, we would use a heat gun and we get the material, the medium hot,
Yeah.
and then we can form it onto
Mhm.
a hoof and then let it cool off. And then you have more of a custom boot fit, really common for fitting mules and
Okay.
donkeys.
How
So
is the longevity of the material compared to steel?
Well, that's a good question. It depends on the brands. I'm wearing my Cavallo Hoof Boots hat. They have really, really nice tread on theirs, lasts a long time. And now there used to only be a few boots, just a few boot companies like 10, 15 years ago. But
Mhm.
now there's tons of them. And get this, you're going to like this. They are 3D printing.
What?
Wow.
Yes. Oh yeah. So I could I don't have the 3D printer, but if I did, and if I was super cool, had a lot of money, I'd get one.
Yeah.
But so you could take measurements of a hoof, drop it into AutoCAD, design your shoe for whatever you wanted, for whatever you needed it for, and then print it up on your printer.
Oh,
Do you
that's really
ever
cool.
do any Tony Llamas for your show, donkeys?
No,
knows
Tony
what-
Llamas, that's a boot brand.
Well,
No.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, for the show
no.
donkeys, not for the everyday donkey, but for the ones that go in the county fair, something like that. They
No.
put their fancy shoes on.
No, well, they could. Some boot companies have boots
Show
that come in
shoes.
colors. Cavallo has hoof boots that are super sparkly. They're called the bling version. They've got unicorn and this really beautiful metallic blue. So yes, there is. You could have your hiking boots, and then you could have your parade shoes. Yes,
ahead.
absolutely.
Get your one question in,
Quite
please,
you.
because we.
Okay, so quite you. So this is gonna sound really nerdy. I don't know how I found this, but there's this guy called Graham Parker. He's over in Scotland, and he's called the Hoof GP, and he does cow hooves and whatnot.
Oh yes, yes.
Yes, so you know what I'm talking about. So do you ever
Mhm.
use like hoof blocks like he does? Because he'll get these, cows with like these nasty mangled like hooves or whatever. They have to like, like trim away a bunch of stuff. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna put a hoof block, and then is that similar for donkeys or equines?
I don't know
or
if I've
no?
seen that. What is he attaching it to the
Yeah,
foot?
he's gluing it. Yeah, so he's gluing it. So like, let's say one part of the claw is infected and it needs to, not be weight bearing. So then he'll put a
Okay.
block on the other side to, so all the weight's on like the claw that's healthy, while the other one heals.
Man, that is okay. So you bring that up, and I was just at a lecture with the zoo hoof stock trim program when I was down at the SF Zoo, and they kind of talked about something like that. And I don't have enough experience to speak to that.
Okay.
But in the cattle industry, what we did find out is that a large percentage of them go lame.
Yeah.
Like a large percentage of them. So there is this gets a little weird. Why are they ulcerating and having those issues in the claws in the first place?
Right.
And then I'm not sure. I don't have the experience to know. This was talked about. I can't really touch on it, but
Right. No, I was just wondering if that transferred over, like hoof blocks transferred over, but it's just, a lot of them have these abscesses in their claws. And it's like, how are you getting in that? Well, some of them, they have a nail stuck in there and then, it just festers into infection, but some it's just like this pocket of just, infection. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, how did that even happen? Nothing's in there. It's just like, how does that even
well,
happen?
it's probably stemming from the environment that are being kept in, and the routine hoof care. Cattle have only just begun in the last 100 years or so to begin getting regular hoof care.
Okay.
Before that, so he is new to the scene, and I know he's doing good work. So please, if anybody's listened to this,
Yes.
like
Graham Parker, we love you.
yeah, I don't have enough experience to speak to it, but I know that he's most likely kind of a pioneer in even getting these guys hoof care in the first place.
Yeah. He's
So-
like you. He genuinely cares, and that's what I love, and that's kind of why when I first found you, I was like, oh, she kind of reminds me of Graham Parker, even though I don't know this man, but I just
Yeah,
for
no,
whatever
that's
reason watch
okay.
his videos.
You-
But he'll go and check up on cows. He's like, oh, cow 237, like we saw her 2 months ago. It's our our 8-week checkup, and he's like, oh, this is healing beautifully. We got to just do a couple things.
Yep.
But yeah, it's very cool.
Okay, you got your
Nice.
question in.
Very good.
So Megan, I would say that you're more of a equine podiatrist as opposed to just putting shoes on, correct? I mean, because
Yeah.
you're treating hoof diseases, or when like a hoof is I don't know, hoof rot or whatever they call it, right? There are things like
Yeah.
that. Does that affect donkeys? I know it affects horses.
Yes.
So is that a death sentence?
No, but it can be detrimental to their quality of life, and it is certainly a welfare issue if it's not taken care of. And it is pretty common in donkeys because kind of
Gotcha.
how we
Yeah.
backtrack to them. Well, them being desert animals, like, and then me being like, hey, do you want to come live up in the redwoods with me where it rains, all the time?
Oh,
And they're, and they're like, yeah, I'd love to live with you. And then they get fat and their feet get all messed up. And it's a lot of the moisture. People will think that, oh, it's so moist, that are so wet, that's why my donkey has problems. That's just part of it. The diet is another part. And then the most important part is if they're getting quality, competent hoof care. And again, I have to be careful, like what I say, but people will be having their donkeys trimmed and it's not good enough. I'm just going to say it
yeah,
because I've seen it. And you're trying to do the right thing. These owners are trying to do the right thing, but it's not frequent enough or it's not quality.
it's subpar work. So it's like, you might as well not even do it.
So isn't there something in a horse's hoof with that pumps their blood or something? Do you know what I'm talking about? What is?
I do.
Tell us about that a little bit, because I kind of remember that.
So what you're referring to is the frog, and then and earlier when I was talking about the soft tissue in a donkey. So if we were to flip a donkey foot over, I wish I had a cadaver, but I don't yet. I have some that I'm going to process soon. So next time, another time.
Okay.
But if you flip the foot over, if you were to look at the solar surface of an equine hoof, you're going to see the V shape. Oh, it kind of looks like this on the bottom of their foot, and it's towards the back of the foot, and that is the frog. And so the rest of the tissue on the hoof capsule is kind of hard. The outer wall is hard. The sole is hard, and then you get back to the frog, and it's kind of leathery and a little squishy. It's fibrous cartilage, and underneath that is the digital cushion, and that is the mechanism that is helping. It's very vascular and it's helping pump blood. And so we want, when a hoof lands, it comes down heel first and then the toe hits and it rolls, and the frog is in the back of the foot, underneath the digital cushion. And when they bear their weight down, that's the hoof kind of expands and it fills up with blood. And then when they leave, it kind of has this pumping action. So under the load, it kind of pulls into the vascular system. And then as their hoof leaves the ground, it kind of shoots back up.
So do you think that most hoof issues are due to excessive moist environments that the animals are in?
I don't think that I think that contributes to it, but I live in a moist area, but my donkeys don't have the same problems that other people's donkeys have. One of the things, here's the deal though, if you live in a moist area, you cannot allow them to stand in water.
Yeah.
Your field might have water in it, and that's okay. Like, you can't change where you live, but you can create, we call them loafing areas. You don't have to go rock your whole 5 acres, but what you have to do is up around the barn or wherever they're standing, we call it the loafing area. In your barn, in your feeding area, and outside your barn, you have to drop sand or rock or decomposed granite. You have to make a place for them to get up out of the water. And if you're not doing that, then you're not.
That's a disservice.
Is it beneficial if in the barn to have like a
dehumidifier?
No, like a deck, so that the moisture, they're standing on, I don't know how it is for them to stand on wood, but then any moisture that gets in there can seep through the gaps in the deck so that they're not, but I don't know if they're always on a hard surface, if that's equally as bad or creates other
well, that's not a terrible idea. I'd be worried about the wood like rotting over time, but generally all you have to do is sand or gravel, kind of the rounder stuff, anything like that just kind of drains well.
Right.
If you just kind of pile it up and enough to where like I have one lady that had a field that flooded every year, and she just started dumping piles of rock and sand and gravel, and we called them their little mountain islands, you know what I mean? And it was like a place for them to get up. There are there's a lot of different ways like mitigate mud. There's even companies that make these things that like hook together that lay across the top of the mud. But generally sand and gravel of some sort, decomposed granite, stone dust is another good one. And remember, these guys come from the desert, so
so they like rocks.
You want hard, and you want it to pack down and get hard.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so where do you think like the disconnect comes from when people with their horses versus their donkeys? Because a lot of people they're like, oh, you have to treat your horse right. If you're a good owner, they get very invested in that bond with their horses. But then there's obviously seems to be some sort of disconnect when it comes to donkeys. So where do you think that start, or what do you think? Why do you think that is? Aside from the fact that
Because a
people,
horse might be more expensive than a donkey. I don't know.
That's could be possible, right? You get this, oh, I paid $200 for my donkey. Especially guy will go back to an L like guardians. The other thing about the guardians, not always, but often they are seen as simply a tool.
Mhm.
okay,
My animals. And it's a big problem in a lot of places where these guardian donkeys are just standing out there. Their hooves are a mess. They're super fat and they don't mean much. I think here in our developed countries, most of the time people kind of want to do right by them, but horses have a bigger like fan club, right? More
Yeah.
information about them out there, more people willing to work on them, more resources, more educational materials out there. Where for donkeys, like if you Google Donkey Farrier, I'm one of the only people that come up. You know what I mean? Like that actually calls myself a donkey farrier. I know, well, I have students and colleagues now that are wanting to add that to their repertoire. But, I was at the Donkey Welfare Symposium 2 years ago and I met another farrier there, and on his chaps it said donkey and mule specialist. And I said, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, that's who
So-
I am. And it's like, I don't even know anybody else who would call. And in our industry, we're made fun of. I'm made fun of a lot.
So Megan, I have a thought for you. This might be helpful to you. You should somehow create a donkey farrier certification, and therefore you can certify people that they're certified and ethical, humane, and practical treatment of donkeys, and they can say, I'm a certified donkey farrier, and you can start that. What do you think of that?
No, you're right. And it's so funny. I was actually kind of thinking about that today because I called up my colleague, Sean McMahon. He's over in the foothills. You probably guys know where Grass Valley, Penn
Yes.
Valley is. Okay, that's my family's over there. It's my old stomping grounds, Marysville, Yuba City. And I got a call. This woman calls me and she says, my donkey's being routinely sedated. And I heard about you. Can you come? And I said, well, no, I can't. I was like, but I have a colleague who's taken my class, my handling class. He already knows how to trim hooves. He's got a good idea how to trim the donkey hooves. He needed help, or he wanted to learn more about donkeys. So he took my course.
Right.
And so I referred him today, and it would be cool, like to have.
They have to pass a written test, a practical test, and do so much time and have a recommendation, and now you have the certification. You own the certification.
Yeah. So he can help you with that. But anyways,
We got to let her go.
I know
I love that idea.
Yeah.
We will let you go. Yes. Well, we're gonna definitely have Megan back. But really quick, so
I'm going to go when we're done. By the way, I was going to kiss my wife's ass.
Oh,
what is the matter with you?
It's a joke,
That's not funny.
A
You're not
donkey
funny.
is a, don't they
Okay.
call it?
Okay, that's not funny. That's negative donkey talk.
Yeah.
Anyways, so like you were telling me what people do, it's kind of like going to wars for some people when they're trying to, shoe donkeys or, do hoof maintenance. Describe the not so great approach and then your approach.
Okay, so what has really bothered me in my industry is it's common for people to talk poorly about them, right? Like, oh, they're stubborn, or oh, they're no
stupid
good,
or whatever.
And then it's also very common in my industry for the farriers who will do them, they will want to tie them up and throw them on the ground.
What?
And, oh yeah, they grab their legs, wrap them up, throw them on the ground. I want to say cowboys.
It's not a rodeo.
Were they hog tie them?
Oh yes, absolutely. What? Oh well, yes, dude, I have a client whose donkey, a miniature donkey, was so traumatized after a farrier showed up and did that to her donkey. And I go and I unravel all this stuff for these animals all the time. They have PTSD from it. The idea is that they say these donkeys aren't trained, you can't handle them. Well, donkeys are so smart. If you go in and you talk with them and you help the owner and you say, listen, these are some of the things that you need to do to build your donkey's confidence and show them what we're doing. So they'll tie them up, or so they'll throw them on the ground. That happens all the time. And it's very common and accepted in the farrier industry, which I think is unacceptable.
Absolutely.
And I speak out on it all the time, and I will never stop. And I don't care who gets mad at me.
No,
And
I don't care. I agree with you.
yeah.
But I mean, for me personally, if I see someone throwing my freaking animal down on the ground, like, you know, it's some, I don't know, like it's some garbage. I'm like, no, can you not throw it on the ground? Like, even if it is just a donkey, like,
Yeah.
do you have to throw it on the ground like that? You know, like
No.
I would be like, get
No,
out,
they
get off my
don't.
property, get off my land.
No, exactly. And I'm glad that you say that. But some people are intimidated. They call a professional, their donkey's misbehaving, they're starting to feel embarrassed. And then somebody says, well, we're just going to throw them on the ground and show them who's
That's
boss.
going to make it worse. So
Yeah.
we're not going to do that.
Right. Well, the other thing that happens is so they'll be wearing their halter, and it's called snubbing. So they take the lead rope and they wrap it really tightly around a fence. So imagine this
Ooh.
is their face is like stuck to the post.
Oh,
And then sometimes they will tie legs while they're standing and immobilize them that way. And
no.
that I don't find really acceptable either. I have seen some people do that in a way that isn't too bad, especially with like like maybe with the wild BLM burros, but there's a fine line. It depends on who you're being. What are your intentions? What do you think about that animal? And then, so what I like to do, if we have, the other thing in my industry is they will routinely sedate them. They'll just drug them.
Donkey roofies.
Yeah, but yeah, that's funny that you say it like that. It is, because it takes away their power. Now, I use what I call that is medical restraint. And medical restraint, I use it
Right.
very thoughtfully.
If it's absolutely necessary.
Yes, with the intention to help the animal feel better, but never, ever is it a replacement for training or making progress. I have fired people who would not do what their donkeys needed to get better and wanted me to just routinely sedate them. I will not do it.
No.
We will make progress, and we will get your donkey off of drugs because it's not fair to them. So we have to really think about the donkey and their welfare. And also they are sentient beings. And so we have to honor them from that respect. And so that's what my approach is. And I have gone in and I have met donkeys that other farriers were routinely sedating, and I go in and I meet them the first time and I trim them, and they never have to have a drop of sedative again. So there's clearly some sort of disconnect.
The approach is wrong.
It's just they want to get it done fast. That's all. Boom.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, they don't want to take the time. And once I get to know donkeys, and what's interesting is my colleagues that have copied my techniques or modeled after me, they're getting great results too. And it's not even that hard. And I have a whole handling class on that.
Cool.
And then I have the hoof trimming class. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Well, we're going to
All right.
let you go. Megan, really quick before we let you go, we hope to have you back. Please plug all of your stuff and where we can find you.
Let me say one more thing, because thank you so much for having me too. So the one thing I wanted to say is that this fall, because this has been such a big issue for donkeys worldwide, I'm filming a documentary with Backyard Green Films, and we are gonna be tackling all this. So
Yay! Okay, well, we'll have to have you on either before or after you do the we're definitely going to have you on again if you'll be so kind to come on again.
I would love to come back on.
Megan,
let me know.
Before somebody takes it, donkey whisperer, grab it.
Yeah, there is someone who took it, there's a little, if you have a donkey, everybody can become a donkey whisperer.
there you go.
I do have a training video on my Facebook page. It's about 2 minutes long, and it's how to become a donkey whisperer. If you guys want to watch it, it's pretty funny.
We will. But yeah, so where else can we find you? Where else can our listeners find you?
I'm big on my social media, so Holistic Hooves on Facebook and Instagram, and then I have a private hoof care group called Donkey Wellness and Hoof Trimming.
Cool.
And then of course my website, holistichooves.com.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Megan.
for
we look
putting
forward,
up with us.
Yes, we look forward to
Right.
having you on the show again. Sam is off in
Yeah.
Florida right now. She'll be back next week. But yes, thank you as always for listening. Send us an email, justanimalspod@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram. Don't forget to watch us on YouTube, and our merch store is finally up.
It is.
Yes. So link,
What's in there?
T-shirts, fun things.
I'd have to see it.
Okay, great. So yes, so the link to that will be in the below. It's also in our Instagram profile, or if you still can't find it, send us an email. We'll send you the link. Thanks as always
Thank
for
you,
listening
Megan.
and watching. Thank you
You're
so much,
welcome.
Megan. We look forward to having you on again. And
Kirk
thanks
out.
for working with the donkeys.
All right. We'll see you again.